Hi, welcome to Mystic Mom, and I am Mystic Mom. Thank you so much for joining us for book club. Today we are starting the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey.
Covey? I don't know. I know me.
Part 1, Paradigms and Principles. Inside out, there is no real excellence in all this world which can be separated from right living. By David Starr Jordan. In more than 25 years of working with people in business, university, and marriage and family settings, I have come in contact with many individuals who have achieved an incredible degree of outward success, but have found themselves struggling with an inner hunger, a deep need for personal congruency and effectiveness for healthy, growing relationships with other people. I suspect some of the problems they have shared with me may be familiar to you. I've set and met my career goals, and I'm having tremendous professional success. Oh, geez. Hold on. I have to make you smaller. Sorry, Tammy. But it's cost me my personal and family life. I don't know my wife and children anymore. I'm not even sure I know myself and what's really important to me. I've had to ask myself, is it worth it? I've started a new diet for the 5th time this year. I know I'm overweight and I really want to change. I read all the new information. I set goals. I get myself all psyched up with a positive mental attitude and tell myself I can do it, but I don't. After a few weeks, I fizzle out, or I fizzle. I just can't seem to keep a promise I make to myself. I've taken course after course on effective management training. I expect a lot out of my employees and I work hard to be friendly toward them and to treat them right, but I don't feel any loyalty from them. I think if I were homesick for a day, they'd spend most of their time gabbing at the water fountain. Why can't I train them to be independent and responsible or find employees who can be? My teenage son is rebellious and on drugs. No matter what I try, he won't listen to me. What can I do? There's so much to do, and there's never enough time. I feel pressured and hassled all day, every day, 7 days a week. I've attended time management seminars, and I've tried half a dozen different planning systems. They've helped some, but I still don't feel I'm living the happy, productive, peaceful life I want to live. I want to teach my children the value of work, but to get them to do anything, I have to supervise every move and to put up with complaining every step of the way. It's so much easier to do it myself. Why can't children do their work cheerfully and without being reminded? I'm busy, really busy, but sometimes I wonder if what I'm doing will make any difference in the long run. I'd really like to think there was meaning in my life, that somehow things were different because I was here. I see my friends or relatives achieving some degree of success or receive some recognition, and I smile and congratulate them enthusiastically. But inside, I'm eating my heart out. Why do I feel this way? I have a forceful personality. I know in almost any interaction I can control the outcome. Most of the time, I can even do it by influencing others to come up with the solution I want. I think through each situation, and I really feel the ideas I come up with are usually the best for everyone. But I feel uneasy. I always wonder what other people really think of me and my ideas. My marriage has gone flat. We don't fight or anything. We just don't love each other anymore. We've gone to counseling, we've tried a number of things, but we just can't seem to rekindle the feeling we used to have. These are deep problems, painful problems, problems that quick fix approaches can't solve. A few years ago, my wife Sandra and I were struggling with this kind of concern. One of our sons was having a very difficult time in school. He was doing poorly academically. He didn't even know how to follow the instructions on the tests, let alone do well on them. Socially, he was immature, often embarrassing those closest to him. Athletically, he was small, skinny, and uncoordinated, swinging his baseball bat, for example, almost before the ball was even pitched. Others would laugh at him. Sandra and I were consumed in a desire to help him. We felt that if success was important in any area in life, it was supremely important in our role as parents. So we worked on our attitudes and behavior toward him, and we tried to work on his. Wait, did I just read the right sentence? So we worked on our attitudes and behavior toward him, and we tried to work on his. Oh, okay, that was the right sentence. We attempted to psych him up using positive mental attitude techniques. Come on, son, you can do it. We know you can. Put your hands a little higher on the bat and keep your eye on the ball. Don't swing till it gets close to you. And if he did a little better, we would go to great lengths to reinforce him. That's good, son. Keep it up. When others laughed, we reprimanded them. Leave him alone. Get off his back. He's just learning. And our son would cry and insist that he'd never be any good and he didn't like baseball anyway. Nothing we did seemed to help, and we were really worried. We could see the effect this was having on his self-esteem. We tried to be encouraging and helpful and positive, but after repeated failure, we finally drew back and tried to look at the situation on a different level. At this time in my professional role, I was involved in leadership development work with various clients throughout the country. In that capacity, I was preparing bi-monthly programs on the subject of communication and perception for IBM's executive development program participants. As I researched and prepared these presentations, I became particularly interested in how perceptions are formed, how they govern the way we see, and how the way we see governs how we behave. What? I think I have to read that again. It didn't like digest in my brain as I was reading. I became particularly interested in how they govern the way we see and how the way we see governs how we behave. That makes sense. This led me to a study of expectancy theory and self-fulfilling prophecies, or the pig ma what? Can you read that?
Pigwoman,
No, pig
Pi,
pi
Piglion.
pi ma Pygmalion effect.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's
And
because it's split up.
into into a realization of how deeply embedded our perceptions are. It taught me that we must look at the lens through which we see the world, as well as the world we see, and that the lens itself shapes how we interpret the world. As Sandra and I talked about the concepts I was teaching at IBM and about our own situation, we began to realize that were doing, that what we were doing to help our son was not in harmony with the way we really saw him. When we honestly examined our deepest feelings, we realized that our perception was that he was basically inadequate, somehow behind. No matter how much we worked on our attitude and behavior, our efforts were ineffective because, despite our actions and our words, what we really communicated to him was, you aren't capable, you have to be protected. We began to realize that if we wanted to change the situation, we first had to change ourselves. And to change ourselves effectively, we first had to change our perceptions. All right, did we want to stop here and review?
Sure.
So, what did you think of what we just read?
So I think what he's saying is no matter how we see things, it's not exactly what we're projecting from inside. Like they wanted their son to do well, but they internally didn't believe that he had the ability to do well, and their son was picking up on it. So he didn't have confidence in himself, no matter how much they spoke it to him. He didn't feel it being genuine from them or within himself. So it just was like a perpetual cycle of just being told you were good, but you didn't feel good. So he didn't do well.
Yeah. So, what we really have to do is to take a step back and look at our beliefs and how we're projecting to the person.
And what we really think about them, because what we
Mhm.
think actually is portrayed in our actions.
Exactly. All right. Did you want me to continue reading or do you want to?
I can read now if you'd like me to.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, the personality, you're going to have to change the pages for me though.
Yes, I have my mouse ready.
Okay, the personality and character ethics. At the same time, in addition to my research on perception, I was also deeply immersed in an in depth study of the success literature published in the United States since
Oh,
1776.
sorry.
Oops, okay. I was reading or scanning literally hundreds of books, articles, and essays in the fields such as self improvement, popular psychology, and self help. At my fingertips were the sums and substance of what what a free and democratic people considered to be the keys to a successful living. As my study took me back through 200 years of writing about success, I noticed a startling pattern emerging from the content of the literature. Because of our own pain and because of our own similar pain, I had seen, sorry, my eyes went crazy there for a second. I had seen in the lives and relationships of many people I had worked with through the years. I began to feel more and more that much of the success literature of the past 50 years was superficial. It was filled with social image consciousness and technique of the quick fix issues, with social band aids and aspirin that addressed the acute problems and sometimes even appeared to solve them temporarily, but left the underlying chronic problems untouched to fester and resurface time again. In the stark contrast, almost all of the literature from the first 150 years or so focused on what could be called a character ethic as the foundation of success. Things like integrity, humanity, fidelity, temperance, courage, justice, patience, industry, simplicity, modesty, and the golden rule. Benjamin Franklin's autobiography is the representation of that literature. It is basically the story of one man's effort to integrate certain principles and habits deep within his nature. The character ethic taught that there are basic people of effective living
Basic
and that
principles.
oops, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
basic principle. I'm sorry, let me read that again. The character ethic taught that there are basic principles of effective living and that people can only experience true success and enduring happiness as they learn and integrate these few principles into their basic characters. But shortly after World War I, the basic view of all success shifted from the character ethic to what we might call the personality ethic. Success became more of a function of personality, of public image, and attitudes and behavior, skills, and techniques that lubricate the processes of human interaction. This personality ethics essentially took two paths and one human and one public relations techniques. And the other was a positive mental attitude, a PMA. Some of these philosophies were expressed and inspiring and sometimes valid maxims such as your attitude determines your altitude. Smiling wins more friends than frowning, and whatever the mind of the man can conceive and believe it can achieve. Other parts of the personality approach were clearly manipulative or even deceiving, encouraging people to use techniques to get other people to like them or to fake interest in the hobbies of others to get out of them what they wanted, to get them out of what they wanted, or to use the power look, or to intimidate their way through life. Some of this literature acknowledged the character as the ingredient of success, but tended to compartmentalize it rather than recognize it as a foundational and catalytic reference to the character ethics become mostly lip service. The basic thrust was a quick fix, influence techniques, power strategies, communication skills, and positive attitudes. The personality ethic, I began to realize, was the subconscious source of the solutions Sandra and I were beginning to attempt to use with our son. As I thought more deeply about the difference between personality and character ethics, I realized that Sandra and I had been getting social mileage out of our children's good behavior. And in our eyes, this son simply didn't measure up. Our image of ourselves and our role as good and caring parents was even deeper than our image of our own son, and perhaps influenced it. There was a lot more wrapped up in the way of where we were seeing and handling the problem and our concern for our son's welfare. As Sandra and I talked, we became painfully aware of the powerful, sorry,
It's all right.
mute this, became aware of the powerful influence of our own son character and
Oh,
motivates, it's
why?
okay,
Why? There we go. Okay.
motivates and our perception of him. We knew that social comparison motives were out there, and the harmony with our deeper values could lead to conditional love and eventually to our son's lessened sense of self-worth. So we determined to focus on our efforts on us, not our techniques, but on our deepest motives, on our perceptions of him. Instead of trying to change him, we tried to stand apart, to separate us from him, and to sense his identity and individuality, separateness, and worth. Through deep thought and exercise of faith and prayer, we begin to see our son in terms of his own uniqueness. We saw within him layers and layers of potential that would be realized at his own pace and speed. We decided to relax and get out of his way and let his own personality emerge. We saw our own natural role as being to affirm, enjoy, and value him. We also consciously worked on our motives and cultivated internal sources of security so that our own feelings of worth were not dependent on our children's acceptable behavior. And we loosened up our old perception of our son and developed value-based motives. New feelings began to emerge. We found ourselves enjoying him instead of comparing him or judge him. We stopped trying to clone him in our own image or measure him against social expectations. We stopped trying to kindly, positively manipulate him into an acceptable social mold because we saw him as fundamentally adequate and able to, excuse me,
Well,
cope with life. We stopped protecting him against the ridicule of others. Oh, that goes over there. Okay. We had nurtured, excuse me, Flower. We had been nurtured of his protection, so we went through some withdrawal pains, which he expressed and which we accepted, but did not necessarily respond to. We don't need to protect you, was the unspoken message. You are fundamentally okay. As the weeks and months passed, we began to feel a quiet confidence and affirmed himself. He began to blossom at his own pace and speed. He became outstanding as measured by standard and social criteria, academically, socially, and athletically, at a rapid clip, far beyond the so called natural development process. As the years passed, he was elected to several student body leadership positions, developed into an all state athlete, and started bringing home straight A report cards. He developed an engaging and guidelines personality, and that has enabled him to relate in non threatening ways to all kinds of people. Sandra and I believe that our son's socially impressive accomplishments were more of a serendipitous expression of the feelings he had about himself than merely a response to social reward. This was an amazing experience for Sandra and me, and very instructionally, one in dealing with the other children and the other roles as well. Sorry, my eyes are getting fuzzy. It brought us to our awareness on a very personal level and vital difference between the personality ethic and the character ethic, of success. As Solomon expressed our conviction well. Search your own heart with diligence, out for flow. It passes. Sorry, it issues. Let me read that again. Sorry.
It's okay.
As Psalmist expressed our conviction well. Search your own heart with diligence, for out it flow the issues of life. You want me to keep going?
No, no, that was awesome. So, what I gathered from this is rather than projecting yourself and the ideal of society onto your children, you should really look at them as who they are and accept them as who they are. And they'll just blossom from there
Mm-hmm.
and be
I
like,
don't put,
you can do it. Well, do it on your own and you'll learn. You'll just learn and blossom. You
yeah, don't put social labels on them so that they can figure it out for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Don't put them too much in a bubble either. They need to learn and just be proud of them for who they are and they'll just thrive.
Yeah, because like when you're at the store, you're like, don't misbehave, don't embarrass me. I mean, you expect your child to be perfect. No child's perfect in the store. We've all been there. So
Mhm.
yeah. Oh, they're having a bad day. No, they're trying to tell you something. They're trying to express something. So I feel like this kind of goes along with it. Like no matter what you're doing, your expectation or the social expectation of society or you as a parent is not, you're putting a label on your child. You're not able to let them figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So
Hmm.
like if they decide to be goofy in the store, let them be goofy in the store. They're not misbehaving, they're just being themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Unless they throw themselves on the floor, then you promptly pick them up and put them in your shopping cart and go outside.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, I've done that before. Like just throwing
Me
a
too.
fit, like but the reason why we took him or our daughter out was because we couldn't make any progress in shopping. We couldn't pay attention. So you just separate them to talk to them. It's really not for everybody else. You need to pay
Mhm.
attention to your kid and like so one person kept shopping and the other person brought the kid outside.
Yeah. I think setting expectations of what you will allow your child to do before you go into a restaurant or a store or anywhere. Be like, okay, so this is what I would like you to do. This is how I would like you to behave. And, if you're having a problem, you need to talk with me. And when you talk with them, get down to their level so you're not hovering over them so that they feel intimidated by what they're doing because it might be a new emotion for them or a new expression for them, right?
Yeah, like when they discover anger or disappointment or just
Mhm.
lack of patience. So when they express something to you a certain way, you listen rather than be hush hush. Oh,
Yeah.
you need to behave in the restaurant, you know, like you
Yeah.
just listen. Like you said, get down to their level so they're not intimidated.
Hmm. Absolutely. This is
Mhm.
really good. I'm glad we're doing this.
Yes.
You want me to go again or do you want to go?
I can take my turn.
Okay.
We shall go for another let's say cut me off at 6:50 so we can wrap up, okay?
Okay,
So
sounds good.
we're done on time. All right. Primary and secondary greatness. My experience with my son, my study of perception, and my reading of the success literature uh coll- coalesced to create one of those aha experiences in life. When suddenly things click into place, I was suddenly able to see the powerful impact of the personality ethic and to clearly understand those subtle, often consciously unidentified discrepancies between what I knew to be true, some things I had been taught many years ago as a child, and things that were deep in my own inner sense of value, and the quick fix philosophies that surrounded me every day. I understood that a deeper level I understood at a deeper level why, as I worked through the years with people from all walks of life, I had found that the things I was teaching and knew to be effective were often at variance with these popular voices. I am not suggesting that elements of the personality ethic, personality growth, communication skill training, and education in the field of influence strategies and positive thinking are not beneficial. In fact, sometimes essential for success. I believe they are, but these are secondary, not primary traits. Perhaps in utilizing our human capacity to build on the foundation of generations before us, we have inadvertently become so focused on our own building that we have forgotten the foundation that, whoa, that holds it up. Or in reaping for so long where we have not sown, perhaps we have forgotten the need to sow. If I try to use human influence strategies and tactics of how to get other people to do what I want, to work better, to be more motivated, to like me and each other, while my character is fundamentally flawed, marked by duplicity and insecurity, then in the long run, I cannot be successful. My duplicity will breed distrust in everything I do, even using so called good human relations techniques will be perceived as manipulative. It simply makes no difference how good the rhetoric is or even how good the intentions are. If there is little or no trust, there is no foundation for permanent success. Only basic goodness gives life to technique. To focus on technique is like cramming your way through school. You sometimes get by, perhaps even get good grades, but if if you don't pay the price day in and day out, you never achieve true mastery of the subjects you study or develop an educated mind. Did you ever consider how ridiculous it would be to try to cram on a farm, to forget to plant in the spring, play all summer, and then cram in the fall to bring in the harvest? The farm is a natural system. The price must be paid and the process followed. You always reap what you sow. There is no shortcut. This principle is also true ultimately in human behavior, in human relationships. They too are a natural system based on the law of the harvest. In the short run, in an artificial social system, such as school, you may be able to get by if you learn how to manipulate the man made rules to play the game. In most one shot or short lived human interactions, you can use the personality ethic to get by and to make favorable impressions through charm and skill and pretending to be interested in other people's hobbies. You can pick up quick, easy techniques that may work in short term situations, but secondary traits alone have no permanent worth in long term relationships. Eventually, if there isn't deep integrity and fundamental character strength, the challenges of life will cause true motives to surface, and human relationship failure will replace short term success. Many people with secondary greatness, that is, social recognition for their talents, lack primary greatness or goodness in their character. Sooner or later, you'll see this in every long term relationship they have, whether it is a business associate, a spouse, a friend, or a teenage child going through an identity crisis. It is character that communicates most eloquently. As Emerson once put it, what you are shouts so loudly in my ears, I cannot hear what you say. Oh, I had to take a breath. I was I was reading so fast. There are, of course, situations where people have character strength, but they lack communication skills, and that undoubtedly affects the quality of relationships as well. But the effects are still secondary. In the last analysis, what we are communicates far more eloquently than anything we say or do. We all know it. There are people we trust. Oh, Jesus, I keep doing that. Absolutely, because we know their character, whether they're eloquent or not, whether they have the human relations techniques or not. We trust them and we work successfully with them. In the words of William George Jordan, into the hands of every individual is given a marvelous power for good or evil, the silent, unconscious, unseen influence of his life. This is simply the constant radiation of what man really is, not what he pretends to be. Oh, 1 minute
Hmm.
early, right before the next topic.
At that. That is awesome. So on this one, it was you have two paths that you can take, and depending on which path you take at an earlier stage in your life, that's kind of how you perceive everything, right?
Yeah, and what I also picked up from it was the fact of how you approach people. Either you play the game of like of people like just temporary liking what they like and finding interest and whatnot. You cannot use that short term um imprint on that person if you want a long term relationship with them. They need to be like you need to have a trustworthy approach, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And what you put out, you get back. You pretty much reap what you sow. Like if you put little,
Exactly.
energy into it, you're not going to get that back.
Yeah, if you put that temporary energy in it, you won't get what you want. You
To
need
get the
to be
results you want.
authentic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the other approach that you take, it's not truly authentically you completely.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and you also really need to trust yourself. If you trust yourself, then that's what they're gonna pick up. If you don't trust yourself, people are gonna pick that up too.
Yeah, if you have awkwardness and no confidence and you're
Mhm.
insecure about what you're doing on all levels, people are going to pick up on that intuitively and not treat you with the respect you think you deserve, but you're not putting the work in for getting that kind of respect.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Awesome.
All right, I hope you really enjoyed the book. And if you did, I put the link down below for Amazon. And if you would like to join us on Zoom, I also put that link down below too. I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you again. Bye.